Okay, welcome to Explain Everything. I'm Bart.
I'm
Here's,
Jakub.
here's Jakub, and together we're going to present one of the most exciting use cases where you can use Explain Everything for feedback.
Right, feedback and assessment. So today we're going to talk about a little bit more about what comes from using Explain Everything in a classroom setting where both kids, students, and teachers can use Explain Everything for their advantage so that they can learn more about not only that something was learned, but also how something was learned, because Explain Everything allows you to do so.
So we'll use it to its full potential. But before we get into that, let us show you how this scenario sits among other scenarios that we discussed throughout recent weeks, presenting you with webinars over the last 2 weeks. We had a webinar on presenting with a whiteboard. There was one on the recording. So that's the third one. So let us show you what we have here in mind. So 2 weeks ago, we had this series of webinars on visual presentation, where a device can be used in the classroom to present to the students. Then last week, we had a series of webinars on how to create explainer videos, and we went a bit crazy with collaborative crash derby, did we? And this week, this is the first of the series of the webinars where we speak about the scenario of feedback and assessment. So the look that we just mentioned is something that we're going to demonstrate today.
Awesome. Right. So this webinar is going to follow the same rules. If you've been on our webinar before, then you probably know that. But for those who weren't, then we're going to go through the scenario and then show you a few scenarios actually, and then show you how to do it step by step. Bart's going to present you the process, and while I'm going to check for your comments and questions in the Zoom chat. So if you have any during the presentation, just ask them in the Zoom chat down below, or use the Q&A section of Zoom, and I'll be taking your questions and asking them to Bart, and hopefully we'll have an interesting conversation then.
All right. So what's the scenario for today? Well, actually, I have it ready here to present to you, but before we go step by step and try to demonstrate the scenario, let's speak about the nature of this tool and what is possible in order to provide feedback, as illustrated on this small graph. So we're going to use Explain Everything whiteboard for assessing how material is understood by the student. You can implement that in a different scenarios using different methods, because Explain Everything as a whiteboard allows to communicate using different types of communication. So when you ask for feedback or you provide feedback, if you ask for information from the student or you provide feedback, you can do it textually, you can do it verbally, you can do it visually, or you can mix those methods all together. That's why we like this process, as it allows for very personal way to approach the way you provide feedback as a teacher, and also allows students to express themselves when they provide information to the teacher. So we're going to demonstrate this today, like looking from two angles. When speaking of those steps in the process, we'll show you the easy way and the hard way, hopefully to inspire you what can be achieved with tools such as Explain Everything.
Awesome.
All right. Yeah. So what we're going to do in terms of feedback, look, this is a scenario where we're going to go step by step, showing you what student can do on his or her end, being equipped with whiteboard, and what teacher can do to react to students' work using again, whiteboard. So we assume that the devices are deployed in the classroom in kind of like, one-to-one setting. So the access to whiteboard is not a problem in the classroom. We also assume that whiteboard that is going to be used is used on a tablet device. Of course, it's possible to use Explain Everything on a computer, but today we're solely going to speak about mobile devices. So if any of you that participated would like to know more about this scenario used on desktop computers, let us know on the chat. For now, this is the most common scenario, and that's why we're speaking about mobile devices.
Right, and we treat Chromebooks, we treat them as mobile devices because A, the newest Chromebooks also have tablet versions and multi-touch experience, and B, the experience on Chromebook is the same for both Android devices and Chromebooks. So yeah, Chromebooks too.
So yeah, and basically before we start with those steps, why do we like this scenario? I mentioned that it's quite, there's a quite interesting way you can approach this kind of scenario where you create a feedback loop, because this is something I mentioned, that you can use different types of communication. This feedback can be provided in real time, but also not in real time. And this is actually something we're going to focus today. So we'll exchange projects through different cloud systems, assuming that feedback is going to be provided asynchronously. The feedback can also be interactive or cyclical. And that's what we like about this tool. It's actually up to you as a teacher how you want to make a good use of the environment that is created with the digital tool as this in order to allow your students to shine. Because this allows you to create this very personal way to provide feedback to students. And today's scenario is going to demonstrate that. And we chose quite interesting one that is actually described in full in the white paper that we just published. So before we go into that, I'll show you where to look for information related to today's process. If you go to our webpage, and this is a mobile version, but I'll use for school section here, and you have back to school landing page that we recently provided. On this back to school landing page, you can find scenario that we're going to speak today about. Just here, provide visual feedback for better classroom assessment. And the scenario that we're going to show you is available in this free ebook that you see just here. So if you tap it, you can access white paper that is nicely done and shows a lot of information related to what we're going to demonstrate. So today we're going to focus mostly on demonstration of one use case that is described here as use case number 1, a bit enhanced for the purpose of this demonstration, but there is much more information from author Rashad Richards, one of our co-founders, related to this scenario. So we encourage you to check that out. That's on our webpage. Okay, shall we get this started then? So we think here in this scenario of screencasting, whiteboarding tool and screencasting as a way to mediate a dialogue between teacher and the student. And the task that is set for students to do is to provide information on the lecture of the book before actually students read the book. So let's assume that we want to illustrate the entire scenario here. We select in step 1 a fiction book that is to be read by the students, and that's on the end of that's at the end of the student. And what student will do will provide information on expectations related to the book. And then after reading the book, reaction to what was learned during reading of the book. So teacher can react to those in form of a feedback. So why don't we try to illustrate step number 3, that is step number 2. We'll create a project, we'll take a photograph of the book cover, assuming that we're a student, right? And we'll record what we expect, what are our expectations related to the book, what we want to learn about. And we will use few tools in order for this demonstration on students, and still is interesting. So we can use different tools in order to illustrate our thinking. Then we'll pause the recording and we'll come back to this demonstration to speak more about the process. So let us assume that I'm the student, I'm creating a new project. I choose the book from the shelf, and the book is Homo Deus. No, I don't see a camera here.
Yeah, it's all okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
right. This is a very interesting book. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the picture of the book. So this is going to be book project 1 student, because that's the screencast that is going to be provided by student. Maybe I can choose a different background. What color do you like today? Yellow?
I'll go with white yellow.
Yeah.
Oh, you might want to turn on the dots and gestures.
Oh, absolutely. So we want you to see where I'm tapping. That's the setting for this. So when I tap now, you see my taps and gestures. Okay, so I'll make a picture of my book now. Hello. All right. I can do it just like that. That's not a problem. I can rotate it later. I'll use photo. Might even want to crop it from this picture, and I can remove background with background removal tool like this. So once I hit done in top right corner of the screen, I have this nice,
Thank you.
nice picture of the cover without the background. This looks great. So as a student that is interested in reading this particular book, I'm going to create my recording. I hit record now. Hey, I'm very much interested in reading book Homo Deus here by Yuval Noah Harari. And what I'm looking in that book is to learn more about Dataism and humanism as well. And something that I've heard about that is called techno-humanism. Yeah, that interests me the most. So I just created 27 seconds long recording that I can play back. I hit record now. Hey, I'm very much interested in reading book Homo Deus here by Yuval Noah Harari. And as now you see that picture, I forgot to write techno-humanism, but this is something you can add later after recording. So you can encourage your students to improve their creation, their screencast, by just sliding through the timeline and adding things that they think that are missing. So I mentioned techno-humanism somewhere at this point of time. So I added it here, so it will just appear when I play it back. And something that I've heard about that is called techno-humanism. That was too early, but nevertheless, that's a good screencast. So now I have 24 seconds of recording. Yeah. I'll save it now. And what you can ask your students to do is to provide this very recording in a form of a project. I'll do it in a second because I'll assume that this is the first slide that was recorded by the students when preparing to read the book. We'll also add second slide as a reaction to what we've learned from the book. And then we'll provide this project with 2 slides to the teacher for feedback. So I'll hit plus here in the lower right corner in order to add second slide. As you see now, I have 2 slides. And let's say I just read the book. It was very interesting. I found what I was looking for on the page of the book related to Dadaism. And I want to make my reaction to this. And again, I'll do it in a form, in the simplest form there is, that is making a picture. So I'll make a picture again. Oh, thank you for helping me with that. Okay, Dadaism. Thank you. I'll use photo. I can crop it a bit just to hide my flip-flops here. Okay. And now, after adding this object to the canvas, what I can do, because there is no recording on this slide, and the purpose of this demonstration is to show you how students can, after learning the contents of the book, react to it. So before recording anything on the second slide, the student can, let's say, do the highlights as normally you would do on the physical paper. So that is, yeah, that's something that I've learned here about, right? Yeah, maybe that would work for now. Okay, and you, after providing highlights, you can of course do some notes like this. That is, and by this create quite elaborate visualization of what you've learned from the book. This marks on the side. If you leave the remarks on the side of the picture, they will stick to the picture. As you see, it moves together. So this is a quite interesting thing, because if you have several pages, like I'll try to duplicate this. This is something you can instruct your students to do. If they have several pages, they can leave the remarks on side, like, okay, that was page number. And those will stick to those pages, or they won't, you know. Why?
Because I think it used the one on the right, because it. So
yeah. I'll do it again.
Here's why it happened. Because the drawing, the second drawing part wrote overlay over the second object that was on the right, and this caused it to join into the object that was on the layer right after that. That's why it grouped together. So that's how it works, but it's gonna be changed soon. Here's a hint for you.
So, but if you have like a clean setup, that there's just one page, one picture, and you provide highlights and annotations on top of that, it will group together, it will stick, so then it can be moved together, as I'll demonstrate now again here. So you can ask your students to provide you as a teacher reaction to the book in a quite interesting, visually interesting way, showing what they've learned and speaking how they've learned what they've learned, and relate to the way to what they expected early on that was recorded on the first slide. So now I have, I'll delete that. We'll do the reaction just one page of the book. So here's part again, and I've read the book. It was very interesting, and I'm mostly fascinated by the notion of Dadaism that was coined by an author here, and he actually thinks of that as a new form of religion. This is just for demonstration. We have now new slide, 17 seconds of recording. I can, of course, make it more interesting by recording again with my microphone muted. I can point
So here's Bart again, and I've read the book.
I'm going too fast here, so let me redo that again. So I'll play the recording using the mix mode. That means I can add new elements to the existing recording. So I'll play it, and I'll use, let's say, the shape tool here in order to point to the materials that I'm talking about. This is just to demonstrate to you how students can make visually interesting screencasts, adding layers of the recording to the existing audio track that was captured a few seconds ago. So I'm going to hit recording here.
It was very interesting, and I'm mostly fascinated by the notion of Dadaism that was coined by an author here, and he actually thinks of that as a new form of religion.
So as you see, I recorded twice. I first recorded audio and then added this movement of the shape here to illustrate what I'm talking about. So that's our demonstration. If you'd like to learn more about what is possible with recording, we invite you to one of the webinars related to that. There are a lot of goodies in Explain Everything.
So you can either watch the previous one, or we'll be inviting you to the ones that are coming in the near future, because we want to talk a little bit more about the power features of Explain Everything's recording.
There's definitely a demand in terms of knowledge of how to do the interesting recording. So we're going to provide more scenarios, what you can do to quickly, in seconds, create interesting recordings. But here we're thinking about recording as a way to express, as a method to express what you've learned as a student in the book. And that's why I mixed those two things. I recorded my audio and I provided some annotations, and then I recorded this movement of the shape. Okay, so I spoke about Dadaism here as something I've learned from the book. Now, this is what I did on my iPad as a student. I want to share this with teacher. And today we're going to focus on sharing that using repositories that you have in the schools. And some schools use, well, different schools use different repositories. The most common scenario, is it actually even possible to speak about the most common scenario?
I don't think so. Well,
yeah.
It's either their own cloud, G Suite, Dropboxes, Evernote, and so on and so forth. So depending on what your cloud source or setup is in your school, you can share it in many different ways depending on what you're using. Yeah, well, yeah.
So we'll show you options. I mean, Explain Everything is supplied with many options. You can share through those repositories that you see here, but not only, also through those that are, you know, connected to the system with separate apps. In the book, in the white paper that I mentioned to you, that is available on our website, the scenario uses Evernote. For this, we're going to use just a simple storage space on Dropbox. So I'm going to create this video to share this with teacher in form of a video. So I'll hit export here. So that's the second option, export, save in various formats, and I'll choose that I want to save this as a video. And this video will be saved to Dropbox. So what happens now is that my device generates a video that I can save to Dropbox. It takes a moment. There are options to share this quicker. We can definitely speak about that. So let's wait a few seconds. And the next step, my device will ask me where I should, in the Dropbox, I should store the video. And that's what we're going to do. Because the next step would be, okay, I have my video on the Dropbox. Now I can just, you know, send the link to the teacher, or maybe it's just a folder that teacher shared with me to save, to upload my project to, right?
Or yeah, or if you're using any classroom management system, then you know that for example on an iPad, if you use schoolwork or in Google setting, if you use Classroom, you can do it via those systems. And actually, I think it's a good moment to maybe not remind but announce that we've just released a new version of Explain Everything version for iOS on an iPad that allows teachers to open Explain Everything projects where they are at. So if you're using Explain Everything, or we're planning to use Explain Everything, and you had a cloud source, so now on the iPad you can open Explain Everything projects directly on your cloud storage, which means that you don't have to send it to Explain Everything and resend it. It will get saved in that location, which allows also Explain Everything to work really, really well with schoolwork. And we'll be sharing a video on how it's going to work and how you can send assignments to your students via schoolwork. So that's going to come this week.
Awesome, awesome. So today we're just focusing on asynchronous exchange of files, and we're sharing this, as you see, MP4 video. I'm going to choose where I'm going to place it. That's webinar folder. So I'm going to upload this project to the webinar folder, nice and easy. And as a student in this scenario, I'm done. I uploaded the project.
I think it's a good time to kind of mention actually the product of this work, meaning the video that student created. As Bart shown you in terms of like connections between or like levels or different dimensions of formative assessment in that manner. This video, it's, you know, we're sharing it. The scenario involves sharing it with a teacher, but this video also allows the student to see how they explained it, and if they like what they did, and if they think what they said was, you know, what they wanted to say, because they have the product that involves them speaking about something, and they can hear that. And on the same the same thing is they can share this product with other students. And then you can create this sort of gallery of those projects where students can try to explain the concept that they are talking about to other students. Mm-hmm. And so these are like 3 dimensions that allows in which Explain Everything works, right? That creating a video and Explain Everything allows you to actually work in those 3 dimensions at any time, depending on what you want to go for. So that's what we meant when we were talking about that. Not you get the product, but not only that, but you also get the process, right? Because it was recorded. So, okay.
So here's what happens. So I created project as a student. Let's say here's a student's iPad. I created a project that was shared, rendered as video, and shared to the shared folder with my teacher. And what you're suggesting is that other students as well can create their projects and share their creations with teacher or the class using the same space. And it's up to you where you have this location in the cloud or in the local repository, because Explain Everything can also connect to those using a local network. So nothing is exchanged through the cloud, rather through a local area network. And one more thing to mention is that we used video now. So you saw me rendering this video on the device before sharing the result, but you can also exchange projects, right? Explain Everything project. And the difference is that if you share project that way, this project will have to be open in Explain Everything. if it's shared to the repository, third-party repository, in order for teacher to play it back. So I made it easier now. So it's a video that I can easily react to, and I'll show you how you can do this easily as a teacher. But that's basically that's basically what's working here. So those steps, going again through them. So I illustrated how you can, as a student, record first slide and speak about what you expect in the book, and then read the book and provide your reaction to what you wanted to learn, what you've learned, again as a picture, and then I save this to the shared destination that is available for my teacher. So that's the one part of the story. That's the one end where, as a student, we created something that we want our teacher to react to. And that's something that, putting teacher's hat, we're going to demonstrate now. So activity instructions here for teachers is that what we're going to do is that we're going to watch the recording provided by student. And we're going to provide a feedback to this recording in order to provide suggestions and recommendations, also recording short video using interactive whiteboard. And then we're going to share this with student in form, similarly, of a video. Why don't we do that? So I'll quit this project. I'll create a new one. And now I'm the teacher, so I'm going to use a different color. Let's say teachers like, I'm a teacher that likes green color in the background. So that's going to be teacher's reaction to Bart's work. And what I need to do is to put to the Canvas video that was created by Bart. So webinar, yeah, I see this video here. I'll just download it and tap import in the top right corner to bring this video to my Canvas. So as you see, this is a video that we created before, wearing a hat of a student.
Hit record now. Hey, I'm very much interested in reading book Homo Deus here by Yuval Noah Harari.
And those were the notes, right? I see reaction after reading the book on slide number 2. It was rendered together. So this is like a simple 46-second long movie. So as a teacher, what you can do is to provide reaction one-to-one, reacting to this and suggesting your comments directly to the student. You can also use Explainer to aggregate reactions and provide them to the class, present them to the class. Although doing that, we just remind you that you have like a limit of adding 11 recordings to this slide. It shouldn't stop you, but this is like a imposed limit in the technology where if you want to aggregate a lot on a single slide, you would have to, create few slides to have more than 10 videos on one slide. I don't think that would happen. That it's often used scenario. So for now, we're going to use this to demonstrate reaction of a teacher to a single student. So we've learned that student was mostly interested on learning three things.
Well,
that is humanism and techno-humanism. There was information about the page and what was learned related to Dadaism, and the student mentioned that Dadaism was coined by author, which is incorrect. Dadaism is known from the very early 90s, I believe. And as a teacher, I do have some materials to point my students to so he can learn more about Dadaism or by reading additional books that I can illustrate here on this example to him. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring to the Canvas additional information that I want to use in my response to students' work. So I'll save it for now. I'll look at the material where I have information on Dadaism stored. And I'll just take the books that relate to the subject. I'll just copy them to the clipboard so I can use them when working on response to students' work. Okay, so I have them in the clipboard so I can use this material at any point of time. So when reacting to this, what the teacher should do is to also create a recording and maybe sometimes during providing feedback, playing back what students said. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to hit the record here and play a portion of the recording just to capture students' words in order to react to those words. So let me demonstrate that. I'll tap the record now. Hey, this is Bart again. Now I'm the teacher Bart, and I'm going to react to what student Bart provided in this video. So
the notion of Dadaism that was coined by an author here, and he actually thinks of.
So I like the way you approached this. You highlighted information about Dadaism. One thing to notice is that Dadaism was actually known in the past, and it was known, and I'll hit stop here to give me additional time to provide this information that I want to pass to student. So I created 30-second long video to which I'm going to add this set of materials, and I will continue my recording, so I'll record now again. And it was known and described in those books that I call to your attention because these are quite fascinating readings. If you look at Wikipedia, it says that Dadaism was coined by David Brooks in this article, but that's actually incorrect. If you look back in time, Philosophy of Science by Mario described this notion quite a bit, but there was also a book from 1995 that might interest you when looking for additional information. But overall, great work. Thank you for your project. And I click and I tap stop. So that's the reaction of me wearing a teacher's hat to what student learned about Dadaism. And I can scroll back and play this to you so you can see what kind of video was created.
And this is going to be a fun example because Bart did something that's going to make his project a little bit sketchy. And we're going to show you how to avoid that, which is very interesting. It is great to show that, by the way.
So let's play the video.
Hey, this is Bart again. Now I'm the teacher Bart, and I'm going to react to what student Bart provided in this video. The notion of Dadaism that was coined by an author here.
Let's fix that, right? So what happened here is that Bart played a video inside of his project, and he had microphone on because he was recording his voice, but the effect was created that the video was playing from the device and the device was recording a video and his voice, which created echo. So the echo question is one of the most common ones that we get from people that are trying to record video inside of their projects. And the easiest way of avoiding this problem is to use headphones with you don't even have to have a microphone with headphones. You just use headphones. This way, the sound will not go through the device to the microphone, but will just go directly to your ears. And this way, you'll not record the sound of the video twice, right? That's the difference. Yeah, that's the most trick. That's the most convenient way to do that, right? Then there are some options in settings if you want to mute your microphone while playing inserted video, but this will not let you record your voice during when you're playing a video inside of your project. But just use headphones when recording video. Just a simple little trick.
Fantastic. Thank you for that trick. So let's watch the remaining part of the recording. So here, as teacher, I'm listening and showing part of the video provided by students. So as you see in Explain Everything, when I'm recording my reaction, I can actually move through the recording provided by the student. I did that when in preparation, so I just pressed play at the best moment where I wanted to react to the words of the students when he's mentioning that Dadaism was coined by the author. So let's listen to that again.
This video, the notion of Dadaism that was coined by an author here, and he actually thinks of.
Okay, so when we can show also, I think, because you can get rid of that. Since Bart wasn't saying anything during while the video played, we can just delete the part of the audio, right?
So, okay, that's advanced option. Yes, but we can fix it. So how do we do that?
Bart provided in this video. So
right. So we can see that Bart stopped talking around as the video started. I think it was a little bit earlier, so later. So you press play, and I think we cannot like completely get rid of the echo, but we can. Oh yeah, it's somewhere here, I think.
Okay, so let me try. So we would have to lock this track, select part of the recording, and just remove audio, right?
Yeah.
Just delete.
And just delete.
Yeah.
That was coined by.
Okay, let's play it back.
Provided in this video, the notion of Dadaism that was coined by an author here, and he actually thinks of. So
as you see, we've fixed this echo problem here by editing tracks on our recording. As easy as you see, we locked the movement track, so we don't delete playback of the video that is visible here. I pressed playback here and I stopped it here to provide my reaction to it. We just remove this part of audio that was redundant. Okay, so let's see what happens next in our video.
So I like the way you approach this. You highlighted information about Dadaism. One thing to notice is that Dadaism was actually known in the past, and it was known.
And as you see now, the content just showed up. What I did at this point of time, I stopped the recording in order to get the content and put it to the canvas, right? So as you see, the end result is quite interesting because the content just appears.
It was known, and it was known and described in those books that I call to your attention because these are quite fascinating readings. If you look at Wikipedia, it says that Dadaism was...
So you get the picture. I could do it better, of course, but this is just for demonstration that you can do those little tricks in order to create quite interesting illustration of your thinking as a teacher to guide your students to various materials and speak about them. So you see that I'm moving quite a bit with the zoom tool here. It's actually reflected on the timeline as well. It might be too much, it might create this dizziness effect, but that's up to you as a teacher how you want, like, stylistically approach this video creation. It might be very simple. I just wanted to show you something that is quite interesting visually and provides information to the student back that allows student to expand his or her knowledge. So we shared previously, as a student, we shared this video in the form of a file. Maybe when sharing back, we'll share through Explain Everything Drive. So we'll show you the difference between those two types of sharing. Previously, as a student, we rendered video on the device. Now we're going to render this video in the cloud. Why don't we do that? So let's say I'm not going to improve this. I'm happy with the result, and I want just to send it to my student. All I need to do is to press export. And this time, instead of creating video file, I'm going to create web video link. So what happens now is that Explain Everything uploads my project to the cloud in order to provide me with a simple link that I can share with student as my reaction. And as you see, it's already done. I can copy this link here. And actually, this is something I'm going to share with you, Kuba, so you can put it through the chat so others can see this video as well. And what happens is that Explain Everything provided this project to our cloud infrastructure, and our cloud is going to render the movie for you. That means no additional work is required in order to get video out of this recording. It's designed to make students, it's designed to make teachers work easier and faster. If you are to react to, let's say, 10 or 20 recordings, waiting time for rendering those to the videos would be quite significant. But here's how you can do it in seconds. You just create your video, upload this using option, let me show you this again, create web video link, and then send link back to the student. As I did, I sent the link to Kuba, and Kuba just provided you with the link on the chat for this webinar.
Right, and it will be available in a matter of seconds. And you get, every time you upload the web video link, you get an email when it's ready, just like you would with any other streaming services.
Yeah. So that's my reaction. So let's come back to the scenario. So what I just demonstrated is that as a teacher, I'm able to watch the recording provided by the student, open my new project for the feedback, and I actually did it with a green background, so that's great. So I added student video. Alternatively, yes, you can use students' original file. So this is something we might want to speak about in a second. I created my reaction with suggestions and recommendations. We used quite a bit editing in order to remove this echo effect. Then I stopped the recording and I shared the result with my student. Yeah. So that's basically the feedback loop that we created. Wearing the hat of a student, I was able to create a video and share this with teacher. Teacher was able to take this in, create reaction form of video with annotations and additional materials, and share video back to the student. And you can continue doing that in order to have conversation, asynchronous conversation and fun, the way I would say, because from the perspective of student, there's a tiny bit of attention provided by teacher to his or her work, and the reaction is like, if I would be interested to learn more about that, this is something that will help me a lot.
Yeah, there's a really cool quote from the ebook available, wrote by Rashan, from this particular scenario, because he was the one gathering all those scenarios, and this one part which I want to quote, where is the teacher saw screencasting as a way to capture and mediate a dialogue where students could practice the strategy, and she would be able to see what all students were working on, regardless of whether she was able to connect with them face-to-face during a given class period. So this is what the asynchronous feedback or asynchronous, work gives you, how Explain Everything can aid you with asynchronous feedback. So this is great. And if you want to learn more about those use cases, download the ebook. That there are more than one where you can learn how Explain Everything helped and how it is working for those teachers who use it in this particular scenarios.
So I find this white paper fascinating, so I encourage you to download this and see for yourself. There are 2 other scenarios where you can use formative assessment students' benefit. But what I like most about this scenario is that at every stage of the learning, you create artifacts of learning. So there is like a moment in time captured of the expectations related to the book, then learnings from initial reading of the book. Then you can imagine that the student follows the suggestions and read more about that items and learn something more. This is also can be reflected in form of a screencast, and by that you see the progress. You can guide the students to the better results.
Right. And there's one more sentence. So when students were creating screencasts, it helped the teacher identify misconceptions by students, their level of reading comprehension, and their ability to independently follow structured steps, which is really, really good.
That's true. So this misconception that we demonstrated with origin of Dadaism is a good illustration to that. But it's also a way to help students to express themselves, because using screencasting as we did, students actually have time to think about how they want to present what they know and execute the way they like to be captured on this short video. So you'll immediately find different styles and different styles of expression and different skills of students that also can be worked on, and improvements can be suggested by teachers. So I like this part a lot, because it allows for this authentic expression where a lot of is visible in terms of what student can do, how he thinks. It's like, very powerful tool if you think about it.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And in some cases, it helps those. We've talked to teachers who are using Explain Everything, and they were really happy that some of their students who are having problems when presenting something to the whole class have a very good time when actually doing that by themselves by recording themselves on Explain Everything. So it kind of takes away the pressure that you have to present a concept to a large group of people, and you can do it by yourself and just really nail it, right? Instead of just worrying, how am I gonna, get there? This is a great practice tool for that as well. So yeah. All right, so this is the scenario that we want to present. We're getting closer to the end of this webinar, though. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them now, and if not, we're gonna go through some other presentation in terms of like scenario and explaining projects, right? Because we mentioned that.
Yeah.
So if you have any questions, please ask them now, so we are able to answer them and what we present the other part with the project, how we can share that.
But there are basically two things we want to show you. And they are both related to the project. So let's imagine that we want to encourage students to be very creative with Explain Everything whiteboard, and they can react to the book in different ways. I'll show you one way you can react to the book. So this is kind of like a project that was created in form of a book poster, where student reading Homo Deus was actually able to take quotes from the book, and those quotes put in the form of this visual map of ideas and concepts. And we spoke about Dadaism, so it's just here. We spoke about humanism, it's just here. And this is extreme example of how diligently reader can go through the material and create visual artifact, visual representation of what was learned during the lecture. In terms of techno-humanism, we also spoke about. This is an extreme example, as I mentioned, but you can encourage students to be creative in terms of visually expressing what they've learned. A photo of the book page, that's just level one. There are multiple ways students can express themselves, and I'm sure that each one will create something different, and it will create something interesting for a teacher. And it will inspire them to use technology for creation. So that's something we also encourage you to do. So that's one thing. The other is that we mentioned that you can react to the project. So let's assume that in a scenario that we discussed, and I illustrated here, we are going to exchange projects, not videos as we spoke, but projects. And this is something we want to close with. So it's possible for students to create the recording instead of rendering videos, as we showed, just save projects to the cloud. The way to do this, so again, I'm putting head of the student. That was the project that I created. As you remember, that was this short recording. I shared this as a video, but I can, of course, export this using the same option. That's the option number 2, in form of a project. That's the last option here. So I choose project, and again, I'm going to save to Dropbox, and I'll choose webinar folder. So as you see, the resulting file will be of .explain extension saved to the webinar. So what happens now is that I'm uploading project that teacher will react to. I just did that. And now I'm putting my teacher's hat. And I want to open the project from the repository. So I'll open Dropbox for you, and we'll show you folder webinar. And as you see previously, 30 minutes ago, I created a movie, but now there's just .explain file that I can open in my explain everything. So the way I would need to do that is to use open-in. And use it in my explain everything. So what happened is that this project is saved locally now. I had it already because I was assuming that I'm a student, but there's a new copy of the project that can be opened by teacher and played back.
So here's Bart again, and I've read the book. It was very interesting, and
Now, since we do have a project, teacher can react to this project by recording comments at the end of the project. But also, if you like, you can also change the recording created by the student and add elements to, let's say, beginning of the recording or middle of the recording. But
right. So there's a question from Sven. So maybe we can incorporate that because we didn't talk about it much in previous webinars. So as Sven asked, once I type something, how can I fix a typo? Sometimes I had a hard time getting back into the text box. Was wondering if I'm doing something wrong there. So I think it all depends if you are recording or not. Because if you are recording typing, that might get a little bit tricky. But so let's try and enter actually a text box into the recording and see if that's going to work.
So let's say that I'm a teacher and I want to react to that with the yeah, I'll say great job. So I'm listening to this.
So here's Bart again, and I've read the book. It was very interesting, and I'm mostly fascinated by the notion of Dadaism.
Then I want to add a great job here as a teacher. That's going to be my reaction. And I'll do the typo, job. Okay. Let's say that's going to be in green, in some background. I'll increase the font size. Okay. All right. So that's something I added at this point of time. Great job. And the student carries on. So let's see the recording with this new element.
By the notion of Dadaism that was coined by...
And now I realize that I made a mistake. In order to fix that mistake, of course, you could edit this text box by tapping it, but just remember that the edit that you'll do will be reflected in the moment of the timeline where you did the edit. So I'll just do the edit.
So and the core basic thing, in order to access the text box, you select hand tool first.
Yes, you tap it with the hand tool. So as you see, I changed my typo in 11th second. So it's good for the remaining part of the video. But if I scroll to the, let's say, 10th second, I will still see my typo. That's because Explain Everything remembers the changes that you do to the objects that are recorded. So that's what Kuba mentioned previously, and I'm going to show you how to fix this for good without deleting this object. So what I'm going to do is to find a moment in time when this object actually was introduced to the canvas. I can zoom in by using two fingers. As you see, I can zoom in to be more precise and find the very moment where this object was introduced. And that's 9th second. Now I can fix this by tapping with a hand tool to the to enter my text object and create it and make my correction. Once I do that,
No, you select jobs.
great, yeah, great job. Yeah, great job. Once I do that, and I play back the recording.
Notion of dadaism that was
So just make
coined
sure,
by
make sure that
here,
this is the first
he
frame when
actually
it
thinks of
appears.
that as
If you
a new
cannot
form of
access the
religion.
first frame or have a problem, just copy the project with the inspector, delete, and insert again, and it will be fixed. That's how we, if we have any problems, like there are a lot of objects in there and we cannot really see where the first frame is, we just copy the object, delete from the timeline, and then reinsert it so that it again starts remains for the whole recording. So we got another question. When you press and hold an object, it looks like a mini copy of my object created. As I release my tab, that just disappears. So I think yeah, this is the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's more of a iOS thing than Explain Everything thing, because iOS allows you to drag and drop things around. So when you are in the multitasking mode, you are able to take stuff from Explain Everything and drop to different apps, say like Dropbox or Notes, and the other way around.
Let's try to do this to the notes. Let's see if it works actually. Yeah, great job.
There you go.
Just copy the
Since it's text, the text will go there, and the other way around works as well. So if you have a multimedia file, you can drop it on the canvas, and it will be inserted to.
Let's say that is. I wonder what appears. Okay, so let's say that I want to take this file. I can drag and drop it here like that.
There we go. Just make sure it's not copyrighted.
No, of course. Sorry about that. It's silly of me. I shouldn't show that. So that's how it works. And you can actually change this and remove the option to lift objects with drag and drop like this. It's in the options for the hand tool. You can remove this by tapping drag and drop, turning it off. So by that, it will not happen again. So if I press and hold, the inspector will show up.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's what you can do. All right. Yeah, so wrapping up my scenario, once I provided my reaction to the students' work within the same project, I can share my video as a new copy of the project or just rendered video. Nice and easy. Fantastic. So I hope you liked our process here. This is one of many, as I mentioned, and we encourage you to look for more information on our webpage and try for yourself many ways you can use our tool for formative assessment. Even in the scenarios that are real time, it's possible to use it, and I believe we're going to have a webinar on that as well, focusing on collaborative mode of providing feedback. So that's something that will come. But for now, we encourage your discovery. And if you have any questions related to the scenario that we provided today, or you need some more feedback and help from us, you can always contact us on support@explaineverything.com. We're there to help you.
Right. We got one final question, which is very interesting.
Okay.
I think. Sven is very excited by the iPad OS, and in the notes of the release of iPad OS, there's information that for text selection there are going to be the triple tap and quadruple tap for text selection, and if it is, Sven asked if it's going to override the triple tap of Explain Everything. So probably not, since triple tap and quadruple tap in iPad OS is reserved for text selection. So that allows you to select one word and then sentences and so on, as you would do in just like by clicking on the text. So we'll try and make it work. Actually, we're trying to make it work so that it doesn't interfere with our triple tap on the text box, right? Because while you're in the text box and Explain Everything, the text tool is selected. So that means that hand tool is not selected, which disables the triple tap. So that shouldn't, you wouldn't group things together anymore because it's not a hand tool that is selected. So yeah, that's how it's going to work probably.
The new version of iOS is just around the corner. We're excited about that because it brings some new visual aesthetics with the dark mode, and there'll be more information coming from us about the things that we support with this new release.
Right. So if you want to learn more about upcoming things, also we invite you to some other webinars. So. All right.
Great.
Awesome.
Thank you for participation. It was great to provide you with those instructions, and we're excited to think what you can do with Explain Everything in the classroom. Good luck.
Thank you for coming, and see you soon.
Thank you.